Hey everyone, it's Joe, and just in case you missed last week's episode, which I'm sure a lot of you did because we forgot to post it on the RSS feed, oops, so you're probably not able to find the episode on iTunes or whichever app you use to find your podcast, but we reviewed the new film Annihilation, so go check that out. And like I was saying before, this is a new style of intro that we're trying out for our new season, reviewing all 2018 films. Just like today, we'll be reviewing Black Panther. We had to cut out a few seconds near the back half of the episode, so if it starts to get glitchy, don't worry, it's just for a few seconds. Something came loose between the cables and the audio interface that made this really nasty noise. You're welcome. But yeah, before I let you get into this episode, I just wanted to remind you guys that the Handies are out. The Handies are our very own award show that we do every year, complete with sketches, cameos, and so on. Also, if you're on Facebook, please consider joining the How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up Facebook group. We'd really like to start that up this season and have conversations with you guys about movies that we've reviewed, that we're going to review, and of course, upcoming movie news. And last but not least, if you'd like to not only support, but just, rep the podcast, please check out howmanyfingerspodcast.bigcartel.com. We've got stickers, t-shirts, koozies. You can buy those separately, or you can buy them in a package deal, all for $11.99. How do you beat that? I don't know. But let's get into this episode, huh? Hi, my name's Joe.
And I'm Mike.
And you're listening to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The podcast. And this week we'll be reviewing Black Panther.
Yep. These two white guys.
Hey everyone, and welcome to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? Featuring two guys getting nicely irrigated with horizontal lubricant, kissy face emoji, and reviewing movies in a weekly podcast form.
And thank you to Connor Burns on Facebook for that synonym that we struggled heavily with. Just trying to figure out how to say that in synonym form.
I don't...
The emoji really fucks things up.
Yeah, that might have taken 4 or 5 takes.
I think it was 6.
Yeah, probably 6. It's piling on top of... But yeah, thank you, Connor.
Connor, former guest from It Comes at Night, the episode. Check it out.
Check it out.
Always looking for an opportunity to plug our previous episodes. But let us delay no further. Betwixt us, finally back on the podcast after so many times trying to schedule Ken to get back on here. Mr. MacGyver, Ken MacGyver.
Ken's a trooper. We've really tried. We'll talk about this probably in like the Oscar reactions episode. We talked about a little bit of Annihilation, but this weekend was kind of a doozy. Mike still doesn't have power. It's Sunday. He lost power on Friday, and I just got that power back this morning at 4 a.m. And then on top of that, I feel like, so we're about to record at Ken's. And then even before that, I feel like we were about to do I, Tonya with Ken, and then something got fucked up with
Matt. It was supposed to be at my house first. We were supposed to watch the Oscars and record at my house first.
Uh-huh.
And then we were supposed to record Black Panther last weekend, and then that got switched to... It's just been all over the place. Ken's a trooper for finally making it on the podcast with us.
Ken's our last-minute hero.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not all heroes wear capes.
Yes.
Some wear giant cat ears and
yes.
vibrating suits.
And you might remember Ken from, he was on the Don't Breathe?
Yes.
I always forget what that movie was called. I confuse it with like Don't Think Twice.
I was about to call it Don't Starve.
Don't chase the guy in the basement with the turkey base. That's what I remember from that movie.
But I feel like nobody can tell us quite as well what we're about to drink as Ken can right now. So what do we got here, Ken?
All right, so it's a double IPA. It's from Equilibrium, pretty big name brewery for craft beer in New York.
Ken's our craft beer plug.
Craft beer Santa.
Craft Panther.
Yeah.
But it's Really, really good. So
Yeah.
we got some other stuff we'll probably be drinking
And it's
a
got
little bit too.
If you're watching on video,
Look
it's
at
got a
this
really nice color to it. Where
color.
it looks like
Straight juice.
orange juice.
I've never seen anything like this. Yeah. And it tastes fucking pretty unbelievable.
It tastes like orange juice.
Yeah.
8% too, I think.
What?
Yeah.
9 point? No, that was the other one I was looking at.
What is?
8.1, yeah.
Wow.
The other one we're going to bring out later is 9 point something.
It tastes like a dream though. I
The
can.
other one's 15.
Oh, God.
I don't know if you want to fall on that sword.
I can't drink anymore.
Someone help me.
This is very quickly going to turn into like a Kevin Pettijohn episode. People love him though. He has like a following on our.
That's how you win episode of the year.
There you go.
There's like one dude on SoundCloud who his entire profile is just he only likes and repost like Kevin Pettijohn episodes
Of our podcast.
Yes, yeah.
It's not Kevin.
No, it's some other dude.
Is it the Media Boys podcast?
No, it's just some random kid who comments every once in a while, and I think he even said like on the Suicide podcast, he's like Suicide Squad podcast. He's like,
It was
"Man,
a suicide
like,
podcast.
it was. No, that was the other one we did with Kevin. The one where we drank tequila every 10 minutes. Yeah.
Tequila Apocalypse.
Yes. Yeah, this is incredible, and I'm looking forward to whatever we drink next too. But yeah, let's talk some Black Panther. And we brought you on just because you're a Marvel fan,
A
right?
little bit of a superhero fanboy, yeah.
All right, yeah. And yeah,
Let me give you that IMDb description.
give it to me.
I'll give it to you, Daddy.
No, you give it to me.
Oh, yes.
I'm not going to give it to you.
T'Challa, the king of Wakanda, rises to the throne in the isolated, technologically advanced African nation. Something about that is rises to the throne in the isolated, technologically advanced African nation. I guess that's describing Wakanda, but anyway, weird.
It's a bizarrely phrased. Yeah.
Yeah. But his claim is challenged by a vengeful outsider who was a childhood victim of T'Challa's father's mistake. Not your best, IMDb.
It's wordy. That was long. Yeah, so we can get right into this right after. I have brief notes. There's not a whole lot. I mean, there was some. I mean, guys, look it up. This movie broke all kinds of records. I don't think February has ever had a release like this. I don't think a solo superhero movie has ever had a release like this. From what I understand, it was Marvel's second best like opening day or opening weekend or something. This movie broke all kinds of records. I would be here on here.
About to be shattered by Infinity War, but
Yeah, completely.
Well, yeah, I guess, yeah. We'll see. I mean, I think this had a different element behind it.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, I agree because I mean there was so many Avenger. I mean, this was behind Avengers, but yeah, I'd definitely like to see the performance of that. Box office is about to get real interesting this year again because we have fucking
Infinity War,
which,
Solo.
Yeah, Infinity War, Solo,
2.
and Deadpool 2. They were about to all come out the same month,
They
but
move things around, right?
Infinity War is now coming out end of April
Yeah.
yes,
instead of May. Yeah, they moved it back.
27th, something.
In
coming
that-
out for my birthday.
in that cringeworthy exchange on Twitter with Robert Downey Jr.
Man.
Hey Marvel, can you do me a solid and help my friends out? Sure thing, Mr. Stark.
It was so corny, and at the end, I kind of had to give into it. Where the last thing, he's like, "Yeah, I'm bringing some friends." He's like, "How about everybody in the world or something?" And then he posted the GIF. It says, and it just has like his face inside like the Iron Man, interface or whatever, and it says, "I'm bringing the party to you" or something. Like I like literally laughed at that, even though everything else about that was pretty cringeworthy. Yeah, so these are just some basic notes. Black Panther is directed by Ryan Coogler. Ryan Coogler? Panther? Coogler?
Coincidence? I think not.
Conspiracy?
Yes. Illuminati? Ryan Coogler has directed Fruitvale Station and Creed. Black Panther was co-written by Coogler and Joe Robert Cole, who wrote for the first season of American Crime Story, The People vs. O.J. Simpson.
That was good.
Black Panther stars. I haven't seen that.
It's on Netflix.
They
now.
have,
I keep
like-
meaning to watch it.
Well, Cuba, right?
Yeah, and
It's
they
fantastic.
They
It's very
have 4 now seasons. Like I know they just started that.
4?
I think.
I thought they were on the
No.
second with the Versace one.
Oh, okay. Maybe I looked at IMDb
I could be wrong. 'Cause
wrong.
I haven't watched any of them, but I haven't heard about.
Oh, okay. Wait, it was the Menendez twins, right? Who were the ones that killed their parents, or was that on a different? Everybody's jumping
don't
on this true crime train.
I'm sure other people are because they're also doing one for like Tupac and Biggie, but I don't think it's tied into
See, I
the.
thought you were talking about like season 4 of the OJ series, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, no.
Oh, no, yeah.
They wrapped that one up pretty good. I'm like, I don't know how the hell
He's
they
in jail.
It just like 3 more seasons into this.
It's just OJ sitting in jail for 3 more seasons. Damn.
Gonna get out soon.
Season 3, the end
yeah.
of season 3, he gets out, then that whole thing in Vegas with the memorabilia,
Yes,
and then season 4 he's back in jail.
It's kind of how the documentary.
Uh-huh.
What is that called? Why can't I remember the name of that now? The documentary.
It completely escapes me. It's up for best documentary last year.
OJ something. It was OJ.
Last year was the
colon
year
something.
of OJ.
Yeah.
Everybody was on that OJ train.
I had a hard time bringing myself to watch the true crime one, the FX one, after watching the documentary because I was like, what could be better than like the real version of it?
I still haven't watched it.
Oh, you haven't watched the documentary? It's
Oh,
fantastic.
no, I still haven't watched I haven't
true-
watched the documentary. I haven't watched the
Yeah.
the series yet. But Black Panther starts. It stars. This is just the beginning of me fucking up everybody's name. Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, Lupita.
That's a Nick Cannon looking guy, right?
Yeah,
That's the first
Yeah.
thing I noticed when I saw him on screen. I'm like, I didn't know Nick Cannon was in this. And then they're like, no, it's Michael P. Jordan. I'm like, I have no idea who that is.
It's Michael Jordan.
Yeah, Michael Jordan.
I mean,
it's like
what-
Michael Jordan's son.
I mean, what else recently do I know him from? I mean, we know
Michael
him
B.
from
Jordan, or?
Yeah, we know him from The Wire when he was like a kid. But
Okay.
Creed.
Creed,
Fruitvale Station.
Fruitvale Station. He was just in
He
that
was
kind
in
of.
Silver Surfer and
Oh yeah, he was in the
failed
original Fantastic Four.
the one that
one
no one
with-
saw, the one with Miles Teller.
Black Human Torch.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. Not
Oh,
the
he wasn't
original.
Silver Surfer.
He was the Human Torch, right?
You're probably right.
The-
Yeah.
the
Okay.
brand new one had the Black Human Torch. The other ones had
Yeah.
I forgot the name.
That
of
was
the
that's
actor.
so dated. That was like when we were in high school at this point. The
Fantastic Four.
original Fantastic Four.
And like Silver
yeah.
Surfer. Yeah.
Yeah.
The most recent one was probably like 2 years ago. I want to say 2-3 years ago.
I don't know. I feel like we're all on
It's
different
I think
pages
Chris-
right now.
Chris Evans was the other Torch, right?
Yes.
From that Fantastic
yes,
Four.
Yes.
That had like Kate.
Wasn't
Kate
Jessica
Mara-
Alba in
Kate
that or
Mara?
something?
Jessica Alba was
Yeah.
Invisible Girl.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it was Kate Mara in the new one.
Yeah,
She's in the new one. This is
We're all
this
over
is
the
a
place.
fucking
They're both movies I haven't actually seen.
this is a headache to listen to.
The guy from the Shields in the first one.
Yes, he's
Yes.
thing.
But yeah, Michael B. Jordan was in that, and I feel like something else recently.
I saw him
I wish there was a website we could go to that would tell us what Michael B. Jordan had been in recently.
maybe in international database of movies. He was also in. Me and my sister watched something where it was kind of like Zac Efron, him and Miles Teller in some sort of like, guys can have romantic comedies too. Like, bro, are you dating? Bro, I'm not dating. I just broke up, bro.
Bro.
It was kind of cute.
I guess that really is it. 'Cause he's been in a bunch of weird stuff, like something for Apple TV. He was in NBA 2K17, the video game.
I didn't see that one.
Against the Wall, a short. Wilson's Heart, a video game. Jay-Z, Family Feud featuring Beyonce, video short.
He's up and coming.
And then Black Panther. Yeah, I just felt like I'd seen him in more. I guess it was really just Creed that really.
I feel
blew him
like
up.
with
And Chronicle, way back in the day.
I feel like with
2012.
this, he's about to explode. I
yeah.
feel like everybody saw
he already
his
has.
performance in
He
this.
was half of the marketing for this movie was like Michael
Yeah.
B. Jordan is hot. Go
He
see Black
is!
Panther.
Okay,
Good-looking
so
boy.
Michael B. Jordan, Lupita Nyong'o, Denai Guerra, Martin Freeman, the 2018 Handy-nominated Daniel Kaluuya, Latita Wright, Winston Duke, Angela Bassett, Forrest Whitaker.
Bassett. Is it not
Bassett?
Bassett?
I don't really know.
Doesn't matter.
I mean, Mike, I've murdered half of these
that
names.
was the softball one.
I've
Joseph Lomas?
I've mangled so many of these
Go
names.
for the shirt thing now.
And Andy Serkis? Not to be confused with
Doug Jones.
Yes, Alabama's Senator Doug Jones. But yeah, besides that, Black Panther is the 18th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Jesus Christ.
It's all at the same time. Jeez, that's a lot of movies.
Let's just start right from the top, because I felt like I don't even know if we want to go into thoughts of like what we thought this movie. Just right fucking directly into the movie. We can talk about anything else about this movie, but the narration starts so abruptly in this movie.
Yeah.
I kind of didn't know the trailers ended and this movie started. It was just like a split section. There was like a split second. A split section. Did you not see this section? It was a split section. There's
two sections. They're split
They were divided.
Where I didn't know if the narration starting was like a production logo or not. Like I was just kind of like, oh, what is this? And
well, because they did it. Usually they do the Marvel like
right.
Like the comic book like intro thing before a Marvel movie, and then we get into everything. We had that before the Marvel thing. Mm-hmm. They did like a cold open essentially for the movie, and then we get the Marvel logo.
So the trailers basically finish, and this started. So I was kind of really caught off guard. And what we start off is with a narration of a voiceover between a kid and a dad. I couldn't really place whether it was Black Panther and his dad, Killmonger and his dad.
Black Panther and his dad.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Or I was about to say, fuck it, just two random voice actors. It would have been nice to have a visual cue, unless I'm just dense and didn't get it. Mm-hmm. Or a reveal, or maybe even a bookend, as we talk about pretty frequently in this. It would have been nice to know what that was. But yeah, that was like my first complaint, really, with the movie.
Yeah, it was weird, and then like the animation in that sequence was like something that sort of made sense later when they show like that's kind of like their UI in like Wakanda is this sort of like graphite carbon looking thing whenever they're trying to animate something 3D wise. Mm-hmm. Like they're showing like the layout of somewhere they're about to go, and it's in this sort of like cascading like graphite is really the only way I can like describe it, just like this black substance that's sort of, that's how they animate things, and that's their
paints that image. Yeah.
It's their 3D texture really that they use for their UI, and like that's kind of what the whole intro is made out of. But it's like really dark, and like I don't know, it made more sense later when you're like, oh, okay, that's how the UI works for Wakanda. But
is it just me, or did this movie take like an hour to kick in?
It took a while.
I thought it was pretty meandering for like an hour, and then I was like, okay, I'm invested.
It was
now.
in and
like,
out for me.
Like, okay.
There are definitely parts in the beginning that I think are meandering, but I would like kind of be like, oh, okay, this is really cool. I'm starting to get invested again, and then they would kind of drop the ball again. And
like I
was getting ping ponged around a little bit.
I really even like kind of like this, like, oh, it's like James Bond. They're in like this Korean casino that's underground and everything, and
My
I'm
favorite
like,
part about that, like they need to, blend in. So
Yes.
we have the three African characters like fully dressed out, very fancy in Busan, South Korea.
yeah.
We don't want to stick out like any sore thumbs or anything over here, but I'm like,
they are in like they're in a
right.
casino, so it's like rich people from all over the world,
No, I know,
like wearing whatever they want to wear.
But
you
like
know?
when they were in Wakanda, they're like, we're gonna need blend in, and it's like South Korea.
Yeah.
I was just like,
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
If you're not Korean, you're not really blending in at this place.
At a casino, though, I think it's
No, once they got in there,
Oh,
it was a little
definitely.
bit different,
Yeah. Again, you kind of have. I kind of like this kind of James Bond-esque kind of.
that's kind of deeper into the movie by the time we get to the
Yeah.
casino part, right?
Yeah.
I thought this was earlier for me.
It's somewhat early. I mean, it's
okay.
a long fucking
So,
movie.
like-
That's another thing to talk about. Is that this is way too long of a movie?
Yes.
Okay. I mean,
That I
we
agree.
can talk about something else though. But I like that, and then I thought we spent a little too much time on that fucking car chase. I was kind of like, all right, we could be like developing Michael B. Jordan during this car chase. Like,
Well, it started with, like you were saying, that animated
The animated thing,
fiction
and then we have
dealing
sort of
with,
the
like, slavery. Started talking
yeah.
about
Well,
slavery.
they're setting up the backstory of
Yes.
Wakanda as a whole for us
Right.
to understand, which is it's necessary and it does inform the rest of the movie. I just wish there was a better way to do that, like through dialogue with the other characters, maybe.
yeah, it was I didn't need it. I didn't care.
But then we get
I
into
didn't
that
need
sort
it,
of like I guess it's a flashback sequence.
Yeah, 1992.
Where they're in Oakland.
Oakland, yeah.
And there's the guy from This Is Us who
Yes.
just won all those Emmys this year. Is that Martin? No, Martin Freeman's the white guy. What is that guy's name?
I don't know what his name is.
Sterling Brown.
Okay.
Sterling K.
Yeah.
Brown, I think. And they have that whole sequence where like it starts off weirdly because like I think a lot of this movie, I don't think this is a bad thing to say, but I think it is about sort of like smashing stereotypes that have been on the screen for African Americans.
They really do go in stereotypes.
Yeah, but then it starts out with like them kind of being like drug dealers, like it ends up getting turned around later, and we know that's not the case. But at the time,
Right.
we're like, okay, like he got sent to Oakland, and then he kind of just got caught up in the drug game and became a drug dealer in Oakland.
Right,
Like it was kind of like it was buying into the stereotypes at that point. I was like, I was waiting for that to sort of turn itself around.
It wasn't really drugs though. They were smuggling like that vibranium.
Oh yeah,
So,
definitely.
Like, they set it up to make it look like
they're-
drugs.
yeah, it's
And like they're like hearing stuff, so they're all like, grabbing guns and like looking out the window, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, what's going on? Is that FBI? Are they here? Like,
Right.
So you're thinking drugs, but then they go, all right, we're gonna go into Marvel story, and here's vibranium.
And Oakland is actually, I believe, like, this is something I'll come back to near the end when we have a more fleshed out conversation. But Oakland's actually the starting place of the actual Black Panther movement, which becomes very confusing during this film. There's just so many things where it's kind of like Marvel is started in the early 1900s, and a lot of this kind of backstory that they've tried to adapt from the comics is kind of this weird kind of old-timey, like, Black Panther, he started in the, like, in Oakland, California, it's just, and today, almost 100 years later, I'm sure Black Panther started in like the 50s or 60s or something, but I mean, Marvel's as old as the very early 1900s. But today, it's kind of like, okay, this Black Panther title does not work. Like the name of the character, this location, it doesn't go well with a lot of what's happening. And again, I'll revisit that later, but like immediately I was like, Oakland, I was like, anywhere else, guys, anywhere else we could have done.
Got Wakanda, but we're gonna go start this in
Oh,
Oakland.
right. We're about to go there. But I liked that scene. That was an interesting scene. I mean, it was from what we learn is, I don't know, somebody else want to navigate what happens next, because I don't actually.
In that scene or the scene after that?
No, I just mean in this conversation. I feel like I was about to spoil something.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just sort of setting up a little bit of backstory of like it's a flashback. It's the what is it? Is it T'Chaka? T'Challa is the current Black Panther. His father is T'Chaka, I think. And he's found out that the Sterling K. Brown character has sort of double-crossed them. He's stolen vibranium from Wakanda. He's trying to sell it to whoever in America.
Biggest buyer.
Yeah. And then I guess they kill him in that scene.
Yeah.
They do.
Or that's implied at least. And then
It's implied and then later they kind of
clarify
Confirm it, yeah.
So then we end up going back to Wakanda as T'Challa is flying back, or he's trying to get Lupita Nyong'o's character because he wants her to be there for his coronation ceremony. And I don't know, from this point, like I'll get into my.
This is some goofy fucking. Yeah,
this is
go
my
for it.
biggest complaint with the whole movie, and I think it suffers from having one of the weakest main characters of any of the Marvel movies. I think Black Panther was really interesting in the Avengers, and it made me excited for this movie, seeing him in, or not Avengers, Civil War.
I don't even think it was that exciting in that.
He was more exciting because he was driven by this sense of revenge. Like in that movie, his father dies, and he's trying to kill.
Point.
Oh, okay.
He's trying to kill
Yeah.
Bucky. He kind of drives a lot of the plot of Civil War because he's after Bucky Barnes,
Forces them to move
because he thinks that
story.
Bucky Barnes is the one that is responsible for his father's death, and that sort of like vengeance-driven thing was more interesting than like his whole sort of like plot in this movie is just kind of like I want to be the best king possible, and I just want to do what's best for my people.
Lion
It's just
King, like I can't wait to be king.
it's just it's like a goody two shoes type of like.
Oh no, I'm sorry. That's Lion King. It's just this shoulder popping all day.
Yeah, his personality is boring.
He's not really witty.
His superpower is boring. Like we're getting
It's a suit.
to a point.
Well, the suit's cool.
We're getting to a point in superhero movies where it's kind of like, oh, vibranium, like it absorbs power, like the kinetic power, and then can blast it back out. And I was like, so what hurts him? And nothing really does, you know. And it's kind of like I never feared for his life, really. Besides when he takes the suit off, really.
Yeah, like the combat.
Right, yeah.
Trial by combat or whatever.
He's completely invulnerable. And again, I kind of like that he doesn't fit into he's not like smartass and cocky, and he's also not fish out of water, which seem to be the only two personalities that superheroes have. But
they didn't come up with something new for him either.
He literally brings nothing to the table. He's like this.
He's very mellow, mellow mannered. Like he doesn't really do anything too crazy.
He's not even that intelligent either. Like
he doesn't even like emote a lot. He's just kind of just like talking quietly.
He never really like has like a smart choice that's like, hey guys.
He's surrounded by smart people.
Right, yeah. But
like again, like that's something that like in another movie that would work. Like if he was cocky, and then in the sort of his character progression is, oh, I'm surrounded by these people who are actually better than me, and if I rely on them, I'm a better person for it. But we never have that plot point. We never even like if his suit is going to be his main power, we don't really have a plot point of like, and his suit is taken away, and he's got to learn how to be the Black Panther without the suit, because like it's a cheesy point, but that's still a plot point that works. In the absence of those points, is just kind of this really boring, I think, character progression. There's none really. It's just kind of he's this guy who wants to be a better king, and I guess he gets the throne back and gets to be. I don't even really know what the plot progression or character progression is in this movie.
Part of this movie is that it takes place a week or two after the events of Civil War.
Yeah,
so it's not like a long time has passed. You know, Daddy's gone. I'm now going to be king.
Yeah.
So it's like what you're saying, I want to become the best king possible. I want to try to figure a way to be king. He does have some powers. It's like just like quickness and like a little bit, I guess, above average, maybe superhuman street.
Ingesting the plant.
Yeah, that purple fluid or whatever. And that's, I kind of thought there was going to be like a soul stone or the infinity stone in it, which that wasn't the case. So I'm guessing that's going to be like the huge plot device in
Infinity War.
But
the whole Lupita, like, I'm sorry, were you done?
If I wasn't, I don't remember what I was going to say. So I'm just going to bop.
I'm sorry, be done? Because I got something.
I thought you were going to call me colonizer and start barking at me.
Where's the colonizer line?
Dude, they do it like a few times.
Who says it, though?
I don't remember that.
It's with the FBI guy.
Oh, okay.
Gets called, like, they call him colonizer?
You bring the colonizer.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
But,
basically, if you're not Wakandan, you're a colonizer. Or Korean. Those are the only three options here.
I have this struggle with this movie, and again, I'll bring this up near the end, but I just want to throw this in, like the Lupita thing, like when he's like, okay, my dad just died, I'm going to be crowned king or whatever, and then he goes and he's like, hey, where's like Lupita or whatever, and they're like, oh, she's here, like, you know what she's doing this kind of thing. And he's like, yeah, man, let's drop in on it. And then he like drops in on it, and she's like deep undercover in this fucking like Joseph Kony like sex slave shit that's happening all outside of fucking Wakanda. Like Africa's in fucking shambles, like, because it's just modern America. And then he shows up and kills all the guys, and she's like, what the fuck, man? Like, I just went undercover in this fucking sex slave trade and child army bullshit, and you just came in here and killed everyone? And he's like, I'm about to become king tomorrow, kind of. And it's kind of like...
Is that Wakanda Knuckle right there?
No.
Ugandan.
But he's like, I'm about to become king tomorrow. And it was just... There's such, like... There's a weird sense of kind of, like...
Stop what you're doing. Let's go now.
It's like a whiny, like privileged.
Yeah.
Prince
I need you
like,
now.
Yeah. It's
my
very
coronation ceremony is tomorrow.
privileged. Yeah, and I mean, maybe he learns from that near the end, but there's still like so many like weird loose ends that they present, and and she doesn't really even seem that mad. She's like, okay,
no, she understands.
Yeah.
I mean, I sort of get that, but I think that was an opportunity for them to create a conflict,
right? Yes.
To tie up later. But she's just kind of like, oh, like your father. She doesn't know that his father's dead. She's been undercover, so she's like, "Oh, absolutely, like I'll be there.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
you need me there."
And they don't even really play up that kind of thing, like sympathy that his father's dead, and like maybe they could use that as a, again, they don't present conflict, they don't really present sympathy. She's just like, okay,
They don't even
I'll go.
wrap that up either. They're like,
Yeah.
they just get up and go. It's like, all right, good luck, all the young boys and women that we're about to be saving. You're in the jungle, like, here you go.
In the movie's defense, it does present the sort of larger conflict of he has this idea that he's been passed down from his father that like Wakanda is isolationist. We hide from
Me
the
first
outside
and
world.
only us.
We focus on ourselves. If we try to do aid to the other countries, then we're just going to get exploited like the rest of them have by countries outside of Africa. Colonizers, yes. But whereas she is, she's doing these undercover missions in Nigeria and other countries outside of Wakanda because she sees the struggle happening outside of their sort of privileged nation inside of Africa, and that is sort of a conflict that does come back sort of full circle towards the end of the movie. Yeah, it's time.
Yeah. Just waiting for Joe to finish that.
or there's one right there too. That one's
So now we're
cheaper.
breaking into
What is this called?
This is Morning Bell by Kane. It's milk porter with Rook coffee. Basically, just really, really good coffee beer.
Okay.
That's,
I've heard about Rook Coffee before.
yeah.
Yeah, what is Rook Coffee?
It's just the coffee business. I don't really know if
Craft
it's like
coffee.
its own-
Okay,
No,
yeah.
it's literally they make their own coffee. They're pretty big actually. So they have a deal with Kane, which is down in Ocean,
Oh,
New
is
Jersey.
is Rook a company?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, cool.
Coffee company. Yeah.
coffee company.
I didn't
so-
know that. Yeah. And where's Kane located? That's
Ocean. It's like right by the beach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so got a little drive from here, but
Atlantic Highlands.
yeah.
All right, let's. Whoa! It gets like a bit of a head there.
If you guys want to polish off,
That's
the
a
rest of
really. All right, yeah, sure. Yeah, put it. You can display it up here. Too.
that. Nailed it.
Or I mean, just place it in front of these cans is what I meant.
I
Oh,
wanted
okay.
to show the viewers at home.
Oh, is that a town, Ocean, New Jersey?
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah,
know
no, I
that.
wasn't kidding when I said
I thought you
Ocean.
Yes.
I thought you like were abbreviating like Ocean City or something.
No, Ocean Township, New Jersey. It's right in there.
All right. Is this head gonna go down at all, or do I just sip through the foam?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
It will go down. All depends on how quickly you want to get to it, but
That's very coffee.
it's straight coffee.
Whoa, that's really tasty.
I'm gonna drink this in the morning.
Yeah, really.
It actually came with a glass beer mug.
Uh-huh.
So like it literally looks like a clear
Coffee
coffee mug, and it says Morning Bell on it, but it's for beer. So
Oh, yeah.
I got lucky. I got one of those too.
That's really delicious though. But yeah, let's that was our new beer interlude. Let's get back into the what would we talk about next, really? The thing is, we saw this. I feel like we're gonna release this Black Panther a little later, just because we were
Finishing up
yeah
2017.
we're really
Got a lot going on.
we're heavily like Oscar
focused.
focused, and obviously we want to catch up. We missed Jumanji,
We did.
but I did. Black Panther's probably the biggest thing to come out in 2018 so far, so we definitely want to catch up on this. But again, I saw this so long ago. I think I saw this opening night.
So yeah, that weekend I saw it that Sunday.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, I actually saw it Saturday, so far from opening night. What was your guys' theater experience like?
It was pretty packed. I saw it like the Monday or Tuesday after it came out because I was like, oh, it'd be like kind of died down by now, and I ended up having to sit like the like front left corner of the theater. Like that was like all it was
Oh,
really,
wow.
really left. But packed theater, yeah, on like a Monday at like 7.
Oh wow. So I saw it Sunday early evening
Uh-huh.
down in Edison. Edison for the most part is very ethnically diverse to begin with.
Right.
But when we sat down, it was me, my girlfriend, and about 4 or 5 of her friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone else kind of piled in. We got there a little early, so we got really good seats. But then right after that, it was probably the most ethnically diverse theater I've ever been into.
Good.
So that was pretty crazy. That I was just sitting there like, oh wow, all right. So not that that's an issue or anything, but like it was just kind of interesting to see. I think I was reading something about it. It was like one of the only superhero movies that got like a huge demographic,
right?
That normally doesn't go to these opening weekends for this particular style of movie. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Oh, definitely. I went to the theater that again, I have 2 Regal theaters near me. I'll go to the far one just because I love their fucking screen and audio quality or whatever. It's got 20-something theaters in it. So, I mean, I walked in Star Wars opening night, no problem. Saw it with, a half-filled theater. I had leg room, like on opening night of The Last Jedi. I go here 2 days after it opens, and I'm like, I'm going to be able to walk in, no problem. I get there maybe a half an hour early, and I'm like, 1 for Black Panther at the time that I'm here now. And they were like, oh no, we have like 6 sold out showings between now and when you can get your ticket. And I was like, oh, okay. And they're like, yeah, so like 2 hours from now. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll come back. Yeah, okay. And I went
see Annihilation then.
No, Annihilation came out a week later, but still, I was kind of like blown away by that, and then I went in, and the theater, my showtime was sold out. It was packed, and again, we were talking about this maybe on a live episode, kind of, where like again, like a group of black kids on like Twitter were just kind of like looking at like a cardboard cutout of Black Panther, and they're like, man, like, fuck, is this what white people feel like all the time? Like, oh, look, they're like, oh man, like they're all like, this represents us or whatever. And again, I was in like a theater with just primarily like little black kids, and they were fucking eating it up. And I
had some adults that were like full on like African culturized. Like I'm saying, like,
there was
like
a lot
the
of that on
shikis,
social
like
media.
I'm wearing like traditional like African like cloth clothing.
Like garb,
I was just sitting there, I'm like, this is very interesting.
I mean,
I'm
even
wearing,
like that thing that
sweatpants
like
and a
we're
t-shirt.
doing jokingly, I saw a lot of stories of people like coming out of the theater and seeing like other people and just being like, greetings.
That's how I should have greeted you when I walked in.
I like it. I'm not doing it ironically or anything.
I couldn't stop laughing just because of the whole scene in which that comes to be. So when T'Challa gets back to Wakanda, they're like, all right, we're going to have you become king. We need, I guess, support from the other tribes, because like they kind of bring that up in that beginning part.
Right.
How like they used to be fighting and then they all got united.
They were all fighting over the vibranium, and then
Yes.
they united to become Wakanda.
Except for the gorillas.
Yes.
Is that what they were?
They're like the gorilla gang.
Oh yeah,
tribe.
okay.
There's like
white
mascot
like
is
some
the
sort
gorilla.
of like albino gorilla or something, because they
Yeah.
all wear
so
like that white kind of
They
dust.
have different gods. So Black Panther,
right,
there's
yes.
the god Best, I believe it's called. So that's the Panther god. The mountain people that aren't part of the Wakandan tribes that like join up, they worship this ape. Mm-hmm. And like it's like silver gorilla, something like that.
Oh, okay.
I don't know
Silver
the name of the
gorilla.
god, but that's actually supposed to be one of the villains, like that leader, King, whatever his name was, start with a J.
From the comics, he's one of the villains?
Yeah, so he's like, it's like Ape Man or something like that, or Man Ape. It's not really a great PC villain name for 2018. I know, but like they literally,
Right,
that's why they changed from what I was reading. They changed like his whole premise and story. Like he's not big bad guy. He's not the big bad.
Right.
He turns and develops into something else in the movie.
I actually really liked his character.
I
in
did
this
like
movie.
his character a lot, but like
Because
when I was like,
he is a big bad at some point. He's somebody
Yes.
that Black Panther needs to fight to become king, essentially.
But for great effect, because he ends up...
because he turns right. Yeah,
See,
Chewbacca,
there's so many
he has a really
fantastic
great performance
characters
too.
in this
Yeah.
movie. Like you look at him, you look at Michael B. Jordan, obviously, who we haven't even really fully gotten to how much he steals this fucking movie. Just the way he looks, his personality, he is just oozing charisma in every scene. And then his sister Shuri, I can't remember the actor's name. It's Letitia something.
I don't know. She's great though. I love
She's
her. Yeah.
fantastic. I love the general in this movie. I can't remember her name
she's
either.
Michonne in Walking Dead, isn't she?
I
don't know.
I haven't watched
I haven't
it.
watched
She
The
could
Walking
be.
Dead
I
in a
haven't
while.
watched
I'm
it in a
almost
while.
positive she is. If not, they had some sort of reference.
By the way, there's and fucking Andy Serkis is fantastic in this movie as well.
my
Even
gosh,
Martin
yeah.
Freeman brings a lot of charisma to this movie. It just makes Chadwick Boseman look so much more boring in the Black Panther role.
Yes.
And it hurts this movie.
Yes.
Like, usually it would be a benefit to be like, man, what the supporting cast is so
Great
great.
cast, yeah, it's a huge.
But the lead actor has to be, like if you have that in like Thor, you're like,
shine
well,
out.
like he can at least carry it. Or like if you have that in, Spider-Man Homecoming, like Tom Holland is full of charisma, so that works. Or Tony Stark or Captain America. Like there's at least enough charisma to carry those movies. But I think Chadwick Boseman, the writing for his character is so boring. I think he's a great actor. I don't think he's given a lot to work with because I think he is compelling in Captain America: Civil War.
Yeah.
When he has that driving motive of like revenge for his father, that sort of bloodlust that he's after. But then when that's taken away and he's just kind of like, I want to be the best king possible. Like,
Right.
It's a really boring storyline, I think. And
Or it's not even I want to be the best king possible. He's just there, like, which I think is even worse. He's just like,
it's also boring that like
he doesn't really
it's also-
identify that he wants to be best king. I mean, that's kind of like implied, but like, yeah, he's just
I mean, it's hurt by
we
the
sort
fact
of
that
see
like
that in his like sand visions, like when they bury him in sand or whatever, and he's like,
yeah.
Dad, how do I be like the best king possible?
Oh.
Kind of like that's really the only look we have into like his like consciousness.
Before I forget about that, because
Go on.
I wrote something in there, which I died in the actual theater when it happened. So
Right.
we got to talk about like that ceremony where this starts coming into play with the bopping. But
So is that when they're fighting on the waterfall?
yes,
Okay.
but
Yes.
because you just mentioned the sand thing and talking to Dad, so when Dad comes back in that astral plane, which I thought was a very, very beautiful like scene, like the colors and like the effects were really cool. I don't know if you remember, Dad, his eyes were way, way more fucked up than Forrest Whitaker's were. Like, he's got like the lazy eye and everything. Dad, he looked like a Picasso painting. Like the other eye's like all the way down there.
Oh,
and
okay.
And I was like
think
sitting
so.
there, like I couldn't get over that. And then I started cracking on my buddies, like, what's going on? I'm like, you need to see the dad, because then Forrest Whitaker comes back as like the shaman, and like Forrest Whitaker looks like normal. Like, to me, it's like he probably like felt really good about
I think he
himself.
has like either like a dead eye or like a glass eye or something.
It just-
I think he
Chaka.
definitely has a glass
yeah.
eye. Yeah.
Because it's not like his one eye closes in one scene where he's trying to like squint, but the one eye doesn't.
It just really threw me off, and I just for some reason couldn't stop laughing. I was like, oh my god, he has a friend. It's like you're like me now.
Speaking of that, like, kind of afterlife scene, I felt like that felt not just revisiting kind of like a dead dad or whatever, and a dead dad giving you
Lion King.
advice. Yes. It was
Boss
very
said, but
Lion
yeah.
King. The color palette was very Lion King. The atmosphere was very Lion King. I almost felt like I was seeing into the future of what like
The live action one's gonna look
John
like.
Favreau's Lion King was going to look like. There was a lot of imagery. I mean, again, because they're both these highly influenced by African culture like movies, I was kind of like, now I'm kind of excited for like John Favreau. Like now that I know we have technology to kind of like make these
Make it look
landscapes and
good.
everything,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm kind of excited. Like even like the Panthers kind of like crawling out of the trees and everything. I was like, this
No,
looks
it's
cool.
very- it's
Like
very,
I'm
very.
even though the Jungle Book was kind of, it just droned on. It was lame. Go listen to our review of the Jungle Book. But I kind of got a little excited from that. That was a little offshoot.
We can maybe talk about Michael B. Jordan in more depth.
I was about to say when you were talking about it, I haven't heard you talk about this movie at all. I feel like we try to keep our feelings about movies secret until like we converse on this podcast. But in Squad Chat, our like Facebook group chat that I constantly refer to, you were like, I could watch Michael B. Jordan in that museum scene forever. Cause he's fucking. I could watch that forever.
It's perfectly
so
like
good.
crafted scene. Like it's got like he's like a Bond villain in that scene. Like,
It-
but
it's
he's
very
he's
Bondish,
but
yes.
he's got like there's so much like backstory and like motivation to his character where like even if we don't know it at that moment, we're buying into like even like when he has the one line where he's like looking at the whatever and he's like, oh, I'll take it off your hands for you.
Oh, yeah,
and
no,
she's
I
like, oh,
actually
I'm
wrote it
sorry,
down.
it's not for sale. And he's like, oh, did your ancestors pay a fair
she's like,
price for this?
How you ancestors get these or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. It's a very, very like
It's actually Wakandan,
urban
and
ethic.
you guys stole it from us.
Yeah.
And like even if we don't fully understand like his full motivation of like, you know, sort of trying to steal Wakandan stuff to liberate the black people at large in the world and, you know, give them the tools to fight back against oppression that they don't have already because they've been oppressed for so long. Even if we don't know that full backstory, like just the way he delivers all those lines in there, I'm just kind of like, are you the bad guy? Because like I want to follow you wherever you're going.
Seem like the bad guy.
Yo, I was fucking amped when I was so amped for that character.
And then you even have like Andy Serkis is like really carrying his weight outside of motion capture in this movie because he's got a lot of charisma. He has the scene where like he shoots the 2 guards and then he lets the one guy go. He's like, oh, you know, I'll let you go. Just like don't say a word of this to anyone. He runs away and he shoots him and he's like, what are you doing, man? And he's like, you know, we just got to make it look like it's not professional, like we're amateurs.
You're right. Yeah. Really cool.
Yeah, he has like this, the glasses, the haircut, the outfit, everything. It's super modern. It's super well tailored. It's so impeccably done. Michael B. Jordan gives like an incredible performance.
Slam dunk performance.
From the foul line, just one hand with the ball.
He just believed he could fly.
Yeah. Just with the flu and everything.
Back to back.
There's a big emphasis on shoes in this movie too. Which when we're talking about Jordans, yeah. That's a little bit later, but like the sister's like making fun of like the FBI agent or something like that. She's kind of like, what are those?
She's making fun of Black Panther's shoes that he wears. Yeah,
exactly. And then like there's another part like later in Korea where like the special shoes that she like set up for him in like that high tech lab like helps him grip to the moving car and everything. So like there was when we were just talking about Michael Jordan, I'm just thinking of like, well, shoe plug.
Well, she even says something like they kind of have like you press a button, they cling to your feet, and she's like, it's like the movie Dad used to watch. And I was like, this is the weirdest Back to the Future reference I've ever heard. This is so roundabout and weird. Like, are they like it kind of like really threw me through a loop like of kind of like I know she's talking about Back to the Future, but like are they sitting around in Wakanda watching Back to the Future? Like it was just like it
most
felt
advanced
so,
society ever.
Yeah, it was.
And now we want to see this DeLorean hit 88.
No, yeah, it felt they're so like isolationist that like when she said that I was kind of like,
it's like, yeah, we just got that movie last week. It's very good.
That was some lines are just weird. I did like what are those?
Oh, I hated that.
The what are those?
Whatever. They need something like that for every superhero movie. They didn't have a lot of that stuff. I also didn't mind the Andy Serkis thing where he's kind of like, oh, you guys have like a whole entourage now. Like, when can we hear like the mixtape thing? And he's kind of like, oh, should I give you like the SoundCloud link? I
didn't mind that.
Yeah, I didn't mind that at all, too, because I thought there was, like, some form of, like, appropriation in that, kind of, too.
Are you saying people might not like it because it's appropriate?
No. I thought it was a good depiction of, like, his, like...
It's like a sly dig.
Yes, yeah, he's the bad guy, you know?
Who, Andy?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, no, he totally is just twisting it in on him.
Oh, right, yeah.
Throughout the whole thing.
I like the Shuri character. I don't like her interactions with Black Panther because I think...
Which one's that one? I'm sorry.
His sister.
Okay, yes. Yeah. Okay.
Q. Another James Bond.
Another complaint I have is that, like...
They really go hard on the James Bond for, like, the first half of this movie.
Which I don't mind. But visually, they really set up Wakanda to be this huge, technologically advanced culture. But then... the writing sort of undercuts it because like Shuri is the only person that works in the technology department. It's like it's this thriving culture and booming economy, but she's the only person that works like in like the technology department.
You got to have like half the population like herding sheep and rhinos and like bamboo like fences and stuff like that because like they have this like facade that it's this third world country.
This is a legitimate question that I had almost after watching the movie because I was like, did we ever see like how does this facade work? I feel like
it's like a giant mountain.
No, but we see like street scenes kind of like I feel like they walk down and up and down the same street every time they're walking in Wakanda.
The only road.
they have one Wakanda set kind of, but how do people not know it's? Has anybody ever visited Wakanda? Do they have kind of like a do they have kind of like a North Korea setup where they have like the painted fruit stands and like the actors who are like North Korea is so great, like
that's
like,
exactly what kind of looks like when they're like walking around. This is before Michael B. Jordan like really comes into play with Wakanda. It's a little bit later in the movie, but yeah, he meets up with one of the council heads, and they're like in a field with like rhinos and goats, and he's dressed, ethnically African,
right, in his garb,
in that kind of traditional dress, and like they're interacting not in Wakanda but in Wakanda. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but then the rhinos come back later as like an actual war method.
Yes.
So I don't know if that's what you're thinking it is, where I don't think that's part of the facade.
No, it's not. But that guy,
I think that is actual. I think that is actual Wakanda. That's just the different tribes, and the palace is in the kingdom part of Wakanda. Is technologically advanced. And
as an outsider, if I were to go visit Wakanda,
they think they're farmers.
What would I see?
They think they're poor farmers.
It's like yeah,
but
an impoverished nation.
Are there people that are like decoys? Like I feel like we never really saw.
Who do they interact with to keep up the facade?
But that was
I don't know about that.
If I were to go visit Wakanda and I'm not a Wakandan, what would I see? Kind of.
Well, that's
if
exactly
I would
what
go
it
to
was.
the country.
The council head guy, he was in that area, traditionally dressed, kind of like
Daniel Kaluuya from Get Out. Yeah.
Yes, hanging around.
But they have traditional dress in the city too, because it's part of their culture. They're not.
So I mean, they stay true to the culture. It's just that like the whole technological advancement parts are hidden. So there is country sections of Wakanda. It's not like the whole country. Once you step across the border, it's future.
Right.
It's only certain areas, I guess, that are technologically like hubs or like stations or something like that. And I guess that's kind of why it's easier to keep the facade, because if the whole country's looking like Blade Runner or something like that,
right.
I
feel like that's where the logic kind of starts to fall apart.
Yeah.
If I could dig a little deeper and twist the knife a little further, if Wakanda is so advanced, why do they have a wrestling match and a waterfall to determine who their new king will be? This is a no.
Well, I think that works, because I think that is one of the plot lines they're trying to get across, is that tradition is one thing, but like you do have to shed it at some point. Because they do have the conflict with the general, where she's like, well, he was chosen by the trial by combat, so like he is the king. And Lupita Nyong'o's character is kind of like, well, like fuck the tradition, like what's best for the country. We have to move on from, just because we've done it this way in the past doesn't mean we have to do it that way before. Because that's the whole thing that sort of drives the character progression of Black Panther, is that his father did things a certain way, where his father had this sort of fucked up way of looking at it, where like
kings were doing it like that.
Isolationism, and if we go out and save the other countries of Africa, and
help other areas,
the black diaspora, whatever you call it, at large, then we're just opening ourselves up to invasion or to exploitation and all this other stuff. And that's sort of his character progression, is that through his conflict with Killmonger, he ends up understanding that like you have to shed tradition at some point, and the better thing to do is to provide aid to other people, and whatever way it may be. It may not be through violence, but
I was just so I don't know. Even that, I was still like blown away that they have like year 3000 technology, but like they didn't have politics figured out. I was just so like, how did we invent this with like a guy who won a fight at the top of like a fucking waterfall? Like it was just, some of it didn't make sense to me. Like you'd think they'd have super democracy, just kind of with the mentality that Wakanda has, as like
I see what you're saying.
It seems
more like the implication is that they are eventually going to move on from that.
But that's what it seems like.
They couldn't have been traditionalists this long and gotten this far. Like it just didn't make sense. It was very strange to see Michael B. Jordan wander into Wakanda and like for the first time in his life, and hours later become like the dictator who holds like the nuclear launch codes for like, again, fucking like spaceship bombs, like and everything. Like I was just kind of like, I was just like, how does a baby come across a handgun? It was just like crazy. It was like a crazy.
I didn't like
leap
the fact
in
that he
logic.
came into Wakanda on his own. Like I think they were trying to buck superhero traditions, and that like he doesn't have like foot soldiers. But I think I would have been more believable if he came with like an army of foot soldiers and, you know, still did through the trial by combat thing and, you know, court was coronated that way, but then also had like a group of people that were willing to be like, all right, now we're the king's guard because we came with him. It was very weird that he came in on his own and was just kind of like, all right, I'm going to take over this country one man on my own just because I can.
That wasn't
I have
really
a right to this trial by combat.
Exactly how it went though, because
he did have a bargaining token.
That's
though.
exactly what
I
it
kind of
was.
liked
He had the
that.
body, yeah.
And he had the support of that one council member, because the council member, he even says Andy Serkis's character killed his parents.
Right,
So
Daniel
when-
Kaluuya, yeah.
Yes, so I keep forgetting the guy's name. I'm not going to remember.
Just call him Get Out Guy.
Get Out Guy. All right, so Get Out Guy.
Get out, guy! What are you doing in here? Get out, guy!
So the whole thing, like, they're after the robbery, they're like, all right, enough's enough. My father couldn't get this guy. Andy's character, I forgot what his name. Claw.
Claw,
That's
yeah.
his
Oh, yeah.
bad name. So he's like, I'm going to get him. So then that's when they kind of figure out how to find him. They somehow just know he's in South Korea at this like auction thing.
Right, yeah.
And then that's what brings us into South Korea. And then that's how Michael B. Jordan like kind of gets in touch or
See, I
realizes what to do, I guess.
There's like a few like really bright moments in this movie. I think the museum scene is one of them where like I'm kind of bored up until that, and then the museum scene happens, and I'm like, all right, there's real potential in this movie. Like,
Yeah.
if Michael B. Jordan's the
Yes, it goes in
villain,
waves.
and if they're all going to be like that intense or dripping and oozing with charisma, then like I'm on board. And then we get kind of bored for a little bit, and then we go to the casino scene, and I'm fully on board for the casino scene. Almost like even the car chase scene, I actually really enjoyed. For the casino
like
scene,
that.
like I think it's rare for me to get really into the action parts of these movies because they tend to be so VFX heavy and they're not really bringing anything new to it. I'm just kind of like, okay, like especially in Marvel movies because we're like, all right, here's this gray drab airport that we're gonna fight in and there's nothing cool about it. But this is like cool, like Korean city lights. We have the cool. I like the really cool element of like the driving a car while not being there, like the VR,
like the
VR driving
yeah.
was really cool. I think it's like just Black Panther like on top of that car. There's just something about that that's like hype, and like the music's really bumping at that point.
That's
So
actually something I was gonna say. The music throughout the whole thing was fantastic.
oh yeah, and in that scene, I think that whole thing is really fun. I really like when Martin Freeman like pulls up and he's like, "You guys want to ride?" And it's like fucking like suburban dad like SUV. There's just a lot that's really working in those scenes, and they're like really bright moments in this movie that like kind of like realize the potential of what this movie could have been if they were all at that level. But then they just kind of keep going back down again, and then they'll come back up for a moment and they'll go back down. It couldn't stay consistently good for me throughout the rest of the movie.
The score was composed by Ludwig Göransson, who has been like a life. Nick and I were making fun of this because he's like, they have a black director, black writers, and everything, and he's just like this
white guy
with like long hair, kind of. And he's like, I really had to go back to my African roots to like. No, he didn't actually say that. I'm kidding.
Colonizer.
But no, he's the guy who's. I think Donald Glover brought him up. He's done all the Childish Gambino albums and everything, and he also scored like all of Community and everything.
Oh, nice.
So he was definitely like brought into. I don't know exact. Oh, I guess he scored everything for Ryan Coogler thus far. So he was like, yeah, sure, why not have him do this again? There's a pretty awesome like music inspired by a Black Panther soundtrack on Spotify that's curated by Kendrick Lamar. That's cool. I think there's like a Kendrick Lamar and like Weeknd song. I forget what.
There's not a lot of it. Like it sounds like that CD album soundtrack, whatever, is very different than what the music that's actually played in the movie. Because like I sat
most
there,
definitely in the Korean casino, they start to play like this, like that Kendrick and Weeknd song. I really like. I think that has big potential. I'm just starting to hear it on the radio now, and it has like this weird like African kind of like chanting vibe, where it's like la 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 la, and it's like it's really cool. And I wish they kind of played that more in the movie. They start to play it in the beginning of the casino scene, and then they fade it out where you can't even hear it in the background. Yeah,
literally what the whole week before I saw it. All my students and everything were getting really, really hyped because they're like, I've seen the soundtrack, I've listened to some of the songs from like the CD, and they're hyping it up like crazy. Like, Mr. MacGyver, the music's awesome. And I mean, granted, I'm not really in that kind of music, but I was like, you know what? it's blowing up online.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm really interested to check it out. So like, I listened to it a little bit, and it was pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't run out to go buy it, but it was
yeah,
pretty good. So, and I'm sitting there and I'm trying to listen to the actual music of the theater, and I'm like, I'm not hearing much of this, if at all. So that was
Right. Yeah.
well said.
They really curate a top of the line kind of. I mean, James Blake is involved in this. It's everybody. It's a really cool, and they don't use really any of it. SZA, Travis Scott, Sway Lee, a bunch of like really top tier rap names are in this, and they don't use a lot of it, which I don't blame. But that's
a long standing tradition in superhero movies. Like if you look at like the Spider-Man like soundtracks that I used to listen to like back in the day, like
hero.
That song shows up in like the credits, but like the other half of the soundtrack has no appearance in the movie at all, and has like roughly nothing to do with the character of Spider-Man.
That's like when I first met you and your brother, and I was asking you guys if you've ever heard of Midtown, and Dan was like, "Oh yeah, it's in the Spider-Man 2 soundtrack," and I was like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah."
Yeah, I'm just kind of scanning through my notes to see stuff that we didn't really cover yet before getting to like the ending of the movie.
Yeah, so.
I mean, I think we've sort of well covered the beginning of this movie, so we can sort of start to round things out. Maybe from like Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger character sort of taking over through the coronation ceremony. We had brought this up before, where I don't really understand why he burns the flowers.
So there can't be one after him.
Yeah,
there can't be a Black
he wants
Panther
to be
after
the
him.
final.
But his motivation seems like, I don't think he cares about actually being the king of Wakanda. He's using Wakanda as a vehicle to get the technology and the weapons they have. Yeah. Like, it's not like he wants Wakanda to like rule the world. He wants to get to Wakanda to have that access to that stuff, to use it to free the black diaspora.
So this whole concept is probably my least favorite part of this movie.
The flowers, or
no, like just with Michael B. Jordan's
motivation?
Character, the motivation I thought was a giant just.
The writing's really sloppy for the Michael B. Jordan character because he's so relatable at some points, and there's so many obvious kind of points where they're trying to make him like, I'm the big baddie, like, you know, like we're like, hey, I'm the most like there's. And that split with, hey, I'm the most relatable character in this whole fucking movie, and maybe like a ton of movies you've ever seen. I'm gonna pass it back over to Ken. What was your point?
So that's essentially what I'm saying. I'm like, all right, so we got this interesting character. I mean, he's very, very modern. He looks the part. He's doing a great job at being, you know, that targeted big bad guy.
Right.
And then like, it almost kind of reminded me of like the line from Dark Knight Rises. Is that the Joker one where Joker was talking about like the dog chasing the car? Like, I wouldn't really know what to do if I could actually catch one.
Okay.
So like that's what I kind of felt like the motivation was. He's just like sitting here. He wants to overthrow this whole Wakandan style. He wants to change it up. So what you're saying about breaking tradition. So he definitely wants to do that. The one council member's pissed off because Claw got away. Killmonger kills Claw, brings him, and that's like his golden ticket into Wakanda.
That's like his bartering token because that guy killed Daniel Kaluuya's
Get Out guy.
Yeah, Get Out guy's dad.
I have his name written somewhere. Hold on. Just so we can be more...
I'm not going to remember it.
No, never mind. I have his dad's name written down. His dad was Njobu.
His name is Daniel...
The son of Njobu.
Kaluuya.
Yeah, son of Njobu.
But I'm going to keep on calling him Kaluuya.
Which is not even
and
right.
I'm going to call him Get Out guy.
Kaluuya.
Oh, no, yeah, that's what I just said. I was like, his actual last name is Kaluuya. What I'm going to keep calling him is Kahlua, like the liqueur. But yeah.
So he basically goes, I come offering a gift, and that kind of gets, you know, Kahlua, Get Out guy, on board. He's like, all right, whatever. So he brings him in, and then that's where he's like, this is my throne. I'm going to tell you who I am. You know, we're cousins.
Right,
My daddy had claws in his chest. The way he's like very, very ethnic and urban, when the way he's like throwing down and like really venting about how his dad died and stuff like that.
Right.
So he blames, you know, T'Challa's dad. And I mean, granted, the guy wasn't doing that, good things anyway. But he blames, the dad for his death. And that I thought was a really cool twist. I did not really see that coming, that Killmonger was going to be one of the little boys playing basketball.
Oh, yeah.
In that scene. Like, I didn't see that coming. That I thought was really cool. I like twists like that. So that was pretty neat. So then he goes, we're going to I want to challenge you for the throne. So we're going to go back to that waterfall. And, like, everyone's freaking out. But, the Rhino guy, get out, Kalua. He's like, I kind of sponsor it. And they're saying that he has that birthright to at least challenge it. And that was the one thing I thought was kind of funny. That whole little council, the black guy in the green suit with the lip plate, he kind of looked like some sort of pimp Riddler.
I was sitting there. They loved using him in this film,
and the colors too. Like everyone was a different.
They would put him in the background of every scene. Like,
is he the one who's Lupita Nyong'o's father in the movie?
I actually don't know if that's his. I don't know, but it was. They had one guy with basically like a lip plate, and he would be in the background of every single scene of like the fighting, but then he would also be in like all of like whenever they were walking the streets, he would be like behind them too. I was just like, come on guys, he's a standout character. You can't blend.
They do a great quote unquote job of making Wakanda feel smaller than it should.
Yeah,
because they have like everybody be connected to the government, and we're only really seeing like people that are in positions of power in the Wakandan government, like
the elite top, like 0.01%.
Like T'Challa's sister runs the entire technology department by herself. Like they could have gone like a step further. We don't even need to know anyone's names. Just have a bunch of extras in the background with scientists like costumes on that are working on stuff at her behest. So she doesn't need to be the only person working in the technology department. Such a simple fix. It made me so angry.
White
and then the fact that
like
when they're doing like the scene in the waterfall at first for the coronation ceremony, like all the main characters of this movie are like represented somehow. Where like Daniel Kaluuya is like the son of like one of the other tribe like heads.
Right.
Lupita Nyong'o is the daughter of one of the other tribe heads, and then like the general I think is dating Daniel. Like it's like they're all like
they're all
sort of like
together.
incestuously connected somehow, and we don't really get any like real like slice of Wakandan life. Like they show like this huge sprawling city that's like the pinnacle of like technology and advancement and whatnot, but then we only see people that are involved in like the government of it, and we don't really know what like actual Wakandan life is really like, and it just made the whole thing feel very small, even though like visually we're looking at this huge thing, but they're not actually backing it up with like, yeah, there's real people in Wakanda. There's not just the king and his sister and his ex-girlfriend and his best friend who's also like royalty of some kind. Like there was no like real regular people. They could have gone so far by just having Lupita Nyong'o be like a sort of Wakandan peasant, but maybe they're so advanced that it doesn't matter. There's no like royalty in peasants.
Well, but
she's not the daughter of like the water tribe or whatever.
I was kind of laughing. Red Letter Media brought this
River
up.
tribe is what it was. It was actually.
I'm just thinking like Last Airbender, which was the Fire Kingdom.
Everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. But I was kind of cracking up because Red Letter Media said that the Wakandan throne room, when like Killmonger kind of like comes in and there's that whole kind of confrontation and everything. Yeah. But they're like, is it just me or did the Wakandan throne room look like the Phantom Menace kind of like where they're kind of like seated and everything. But again, it's kind of like
the droidicas.
But it's kind of like when they're out on the streets in Phantom Menace, it's not like people from within the within the government were kind of like walking behind them as extras. Like it was just sometimes it was like ridiculous. Like the extras were just kind of like I don't know.
Did they not give as big of a budget to this movie?
I think this had a pretty big budget. I'll look it up.
I have a feeling like they were limited a little bit comparatively to other Marvel movies.
And maybe they did that as a
I think the response was sort of like
$200 million.
All right, never mind.
$200 million.
I mean, compared to the other,
maybe comparatively, but
to the other 17.
That's enough to hire some extras for the science department. We need funding for science education in Wakanda.
This is a standalone Marvel movie. It's like that. That's a gigantic budget for one of those. Yeah. Also, Red Letter Media was kind of like cracking on that too. There were kind of like is the hospital just her? like when the CIA agent is getting like a fucking
Spinal
bullet
surgery,
removed from his spine, like, is that it?
And
like,
it hurts her character because I love her character. She has so much personality in this movie, but like it just
Someone
kind of
has to in that family.
Well, there's a lot of people that have personality in this movie. I mean, Black Panther and maybe Angela Bassett, not.
But that's what I meant
one of
within
them.
the immediate family. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Bassett?
Angela Bassett. I didn't really like her interactions with T'Challa because I felt like they were very one-sided. Where like she's very witty and personable, and she brings like a lot of humor to this movie. And like he would be like teasing her, or she would be teasing him, and he would just not really have like a comeback when she's like,
he really
what are
wouldn't know what to
those?
say.
He's just kind of like, ooh, like, he has nothing to say back to her, and it's like if you can't even give our main character like a witty comeback in a back and forth like
How are we supposed to identify
How are
with
we
him?
supposed to relate to him if he's just kind of getting like picked on by his little sister, and he's like, oh hey, turn the camera off, that's not funny. Like it totally kills that character for me, and it makes those scenes boring because it's like witty, line, him not saying anything really back, and there's no like repertoire between the two of them.
I'm just gonna start going into random corners of this movie, but I love the casino scene, and I love kind of all this Bond-esque stuff. Even the car chase that follows this is very Bond-esque, even though I kind of clocked out after a while. In that car scene, my mind started to wander. But the one thing I didn't like about that casino scene is I thought the hand-to-hand choreography was not great.
When it's Black Panther, I think he has the most boring fight style of any of the Marvel eras. But I think the General is fucking awesome to watch.
Yeah, she was cool.
I think the fighting style with the stick, I mean, it's been done in a lot of movies, but I was so enthralled whenever she was fighting. She's
Some
the
of
one
her
thing
stuff,
that like
yeah.
somewhat saves the last climactic battle of the scene. She can't really do it because it's just crumbling under its own boringness. But in that casino scene, I was really into her fighting with the stick.
Yeah, and I don't blame anybody on the cast or whatever. But even some of the fucking spaceships, I'm like, this looks terrible. Or just the final scene between Black Panther and Killmonger, like on the train track, I was like, is this like a Super Smash Brothers Melee fucking game?
I'm
like,
almost positive. Yeah, no, because if you
so
hit the
bad.
Sonic, you bounce out.
Yeah, it looked like like I was playing Black Panther on the GameCube or something. Like it was bad.
The final fight
where
scene,
did these $2 million
like not even
go?
between Black Panther and Killmonger, but the battle scene in like the field,
Mm-hmm.
like looked like something out of like the whatever year the Chronicles of Narnia movie came out. Like the battle scenes in there, with like the fucking rhinos,
The rhino
like,
lick. You like that?
Why do we need the
was
rhinos in
stupid,
this? Like,
yeah.
and if you're gonna put them in there, like. Spend the proper time to make sure they're like really like flawlessly animated in this. You can't have bad looking rhinos with Daniel Kaluuya riding them. They look so bad. And like again, like when the general is fighting Killmonger, super invested, really cool looking fight scene. There's a cool dynamic of it. When Killmonger is fighting Black Panther, I've brought this up many times when it comes to superhero movies. Who has the power in that scene? Like we have to know, like, is one of the suits more powerful or better than the other? Because their power comes directly from the suit. They've both injected the flower.
Yeah.
So they're both kind of like equal in that way.
You're on 100% same par, yeah.
So like, what's the motivation for us to care about that fight scene if it's just two like equally powerful people
That
like,
also
fighting each other?
That also
like,
bugged me a lot.
There needs to
too.
be an underdog when there's these type of fight scenes between two people. Either it needs to be the hero or it's the villain, and there's some kind of like emotional thing that makes the villain more powerful in some way. Like, I get like there was nothing really driving that scene physically. Like I was just kind of like, okay, like they're clawing at each other. What do I care about this physically? Like. And then they even like they started to bring like I thought they were gonna do like a whole like Return of the Jedi type thing where like they didn't really get into like the politics of everything. Like we didn't really have like a debate between T'Challa and Killmonger, and I was kind of looking forward to that because they have
never had a
very
really
distinct,
conversation. Yeah,
like, different ideologies about this. Where like
Your dad killed my dad. Now let's fight.
You know that T'Challa is a good guy, but he's following in tradition's footsteps, and he's following in his father's footsteps.
he seems like a reasonable guy too.
Yeah.
Let them
And
have
then
a
you have
conversation.
Killmonger who, like,
All this gets avoided.
Yeah.
You save an hour and a half of the movie if they just talk in that throne room a little bit. As, like, you know what? I have some
Killmonger's
issues with
using
how
like
things are going.
these violent techniques to achieve what is a reasonable end of like people out there, it's not good for them. It's not Wakanda
right.
everywhere.
Well, wait.
They're struggling. They're suffering out there, and we need to help them. And that's what Killmonger wants to do. He just wants to do it through some extremist methods. And like, if they could have like a debate about that, like, it reminded me of what could have been in this movie, of what was in Return of the Jedi, where like, you know, Luke is fighting with Darth Vader, but he saves him in the end, sort of before his death, and we kind of have that like, you know, like, yeah, Darth Vader dies, but he was ideologically saved. He sort of turned to the light side after that, and you know, he was the one that ended up saving him from the Emperor. And we didn't have a bigger baddie for that to happen in this, but I thought they were going to debate, and then they had the one scene where after he's sort of like defeated Killmonger,
I hated that
and
scene.
he's like, you know, we can save you, like these wounds aren't like mortal.
We
and
have
he-
the technology,
and then Killmonger is kind of like, you know, just throw me in the ocean, like the
hated that
bodies
line.
of my
Oh
like
my God.
ancestors or whatever. I like the line. I don't like that end result of like him not getting saved. You know, like I feel like we related so much to Killmonger that there's
Black Panther, he was like, let me die. Black Panther was like, yo, okay. Like, it was like, no, like, oh man, you convinced me. It was kind of like, yo, okay,
yeah.
that's fine.
I don't know. It reminded me of Return of the Jedi, but then it didn't like satisfy in the way that Return of the Jedi's last.
This won't even be the
Battle
last time that I'll compare it to The Last Jedi, but it was kind of like when we were talking about our review of The Last Jedi, where fucking, it's kind of like what's it called? Rey and Kylo are fighting, and they meet on some plane where it was kind of like, this is all stupid, right? Like, all this tradition, good and evil, like, this is dumb. You and I connect on a much higher level.
break the wheel.
Together we could build something new, kind of. And then, like,
Especially because Black Panther goes to the astral plane again,
Yes.
and has that scene where he's like pivotally like, yeah, like the way you did things was not right,
Dad,
Dad.
you were wrong.
Fucked up. Like, we have to shed tradition in this way. But then he goes and fights Killmonger. Like, all right, I guess we got to fight to the death now.
Yeah, no. Like, yes, I have had this fucking revelation where I went to the dead and I talked to my dad, and it turns out my dad was wrong, kind of. It is this extended Lion King, kind of, that means even more. And then he comes back to life and he's like, psych, Dad! Like, Dad, I finished the job, baby! I fucking killed his little kid, too. It's, what the fuck? It was Kylo and Rey were like, the director, or just the direction of the story is like, man, like, imagine two human beings from two different places agreeing on one thing and together living in harmony. Psych! One's gotta be good, one's gotta be bad. Like, you know, it was just...
Two enter, one leave.
Yeah, it was fun. It was
Enter, one leave.
it was like they were supposed to evolve beyond kind of fucking a wrestling match on top of a waterfall, and that's how the movie ends.
But stabbing scene
it's
in
almost
an
even like-
underground railroad.
It's almost even worse because like they have that fight and Killmonger dies, and then T'Challa ends up sort of being like, yeah, but he was kind of right. Like, we need to help the other countries. It makes the ending like a slap in Killmonger's
It really
face.
is. It's like you died for nothing.
Like, I mean, I don't think Killmonger's ideology was like, oh, violence is the only way to achieve, or I mean, it is, but it's not like, it's because no one else was willing to budge. Wakanda was not willing to hear any other method of like, we can provide peaceful aid to these other countries. I think if they had been given the ability to have that conversation reasonably after Black Panther had his sort of, you know, realization in the astral plane where he's like, fuck you, Dad, like, you know, you're not the boss of me anymore, like, and can kind of move beyond that. Like, I think Killmonger would have been willing to come to some sort of, you know, acceptance of that. Maybe not, but at least closer to that. But it is like, it's like a slap in the face to like have that sort of whole climactic fight scene, or anticlimactic rather, and to kill Killmonger in that way, and then he's kind of like, yeah, but we're gonna do what he kind of wanted to be done. Like, Killmonger was
But he
right.
does it in an absolute opposite way than what Killmonger was trying to do.
My point being that I think Killmonger only wanted to do it by violent means because at the time he didn't see any other way.
But it wasn't-
because Wakanda was not willing to even engage in conversations about aid. To
that
other
I agree
countries.
with. But the
Wakanda
whole,
was only willing to kill his dad.
Yeah.
that, and then with him though, his whole end game though was not necessarily to provide aid to those that need it. He wanted to get weapons into the hands of like kind of like almost like sleeper cell agents in countries all over the world, because they were saying Wakanda has people from Wakanda all over the place. That's kind of why.
Well, I think they're talking.
The dad
correct
was
me if
in
I'm
Oakland
wrong.
now.
I think they're talking about the African diaspora essentially.
They
Like,
are, and
there's
they're
people
not.
that came from Africa in the early days, and now they're essentially our brothers in Oakland and all these other places around the world, but they're being oppressed, and we're related to them, but we're just letting them be oppressed. And
you're right.
Being righteous in Wakanda.
You're right, but the problem with it though is that he's not necessarily giving the weapons and aid to them. He's saying that they are being oppressed and something needs to be done, so we're going to give weapons to our basically like
Every country
inside
in the world.
men. Yes, well, those spies that we have.
I don't think. But my point being, I don't think
leaders. That's what I was getting from it. Was that
I don't think it's Wakandans though. I think it's
no, it's Wakandans. From what I understood from it, we can look it up to double check. But
I'm
almost positive it was given to sleeper cell members.
Because I don't think he actually cares about Wakanda.
He doesn't. He wants to kill the people in charge of these other countries. He wants to basically wipe the slate.
Right, I
because
understand
of all
that, but
suppression.
I don't think he's giving them to Wakandan sleeper.
I'm almost
agents.
positive that's what.
I think he's giving it to the African diaspora.
That makes even less sense then, because of the spaceship scene at the end where they're like, let's chop shop it and let's make a buck. Bugatti spaceship.
Just like Black Panther's dad, brother, who is Michael B. Jordan's father, was one of these people who was a representative of Wakanda who's undercover in a country. So imagine him, but in every country around the world. That's where he's sending these weapons to. Is these Wakandans, literally, who are in like all of these like countries around the world.
I get that, but I don't think that's what's actually going on in the movie. I don't remember hearing any dialogue about sleeper agents or sleeper cells.
I
think that
I don't
the
think
whole
it was sleeper,
ideology is supposed to be about that. Because of our color, people are being oppressed around the world,
Right.
and it's our responsibility to help them fight back.
Correct.
I don't think they care about whether they're from Wakanda or whatnot. They want to give guns to people in Oakland. They want to give guns to people in Nigeria. They want to give guns to people everywhere that are being oppressed and colonized in that way.
Definitely. But
Right. It has nothing to do with Wakandan sleeper agents.
It's literally you guys are both right. These weapons are going to the Wakandan representatives of each country, and they will free the African Americans.
What do you mean Wakandan representatives of each country?
They have Wakandan people in every single country.
That's where those weapons were going to.
Yes.
Like, it wasn't going to be like a free drop, like, we're going to land in Oakland. Here you go,
Yeah.
Billy. Here's your vibranium.
They're not just sending it to the address of just black people in every country.
Yes.
They have,
Obviously not.
No, definitely.
It's like Amazon drone drops.
Again, they're really pulling the wool over the rest of the world's eyes. Wakanda is everywhere. They have representatives everywhere. It's why they're able to excel in technology and everything. It's just they have people everywhere in every single country around the world. It's how they know the political landscape and everything.
Anything?
I'm still trying to find it. Like, they basically said kind of what we said in the middle, but they didn't like specify exactly what the end game was, and that's the big issue I have with this character. I love his style. I love the development of him. I hate the motive and the end game of him. I felt like they really dropped the ball on that, and that what really bugged me. So I'm trying to find it.
Here's
We're going on. We got to start getting into ratings and reviews.
okay. I'm gonna read real quick though. I'm gonna read a tweet that I thought was very powerful, because near the end of this movie, I really started to get really frustrated by Michael B. Jordan's character. I love so much that. Okay, here, just listen to this. This is by Leslie Lee III, at Leslie Lee III, on Twitter. Black Panther is a deeply evil film. It dangles the idea of black liberation in front of you, paints that as villainous, then, in an orgy of the freest black people ever to walk the earth, slaughtering each other to protect whites. That shit turned my stomach. Imagine Star Wars ending in a civil war between the rebels, and Luke kills Leia because using violence against the Empire would make them as bad as the Empire. People can quote tweet, be mad, but they can't actually dispute anything I said. Wakandans gave a white CIA agent Wakandan tech to kill other Wakandans to stop their tech going to Wakandans who were going to stage a global uprising of the oppressed. This was the film. And I think that is really fucked up that a white CIA agent is a member of a film titled Black Panther and kills black people. And this is a thing that we're all going out and seeing because the CIA does not have a great history with the the actual Black Panther organization.
Sorry, ruined your Black Panther party.
This tweet fucking struck me to the core. And also, let me tell you how I interpreted the last part of, or the last third of Black Panther. Michael B. Jordan comes and beats Wakandans at their own fucking game, at their wrestling match at the top of the waterfall. Whatever. This needs to change. The rest of Black Panther's family acts like a bunch of fucking sore sports. Sorry. And is like, oh no, like the rules that we came up with, they don't apply to us anymore. And they're these fucking privileged, fucking, spoiled, like, royalty essentially, and they have to go over to the reject tribe.
Well, they flee because they
definitely, and like they need to bring him back. And the entire time I was just kind of like, this is so shitty. I was just like, I can't root for these people. This is so hard to root for. There was something wrong in the writing where they didn't make Michael B. Jordan evil enough. Or they just made like this royal family so easy to hate. Like, I didn't like when half of Michael B. Jordan's army turned on him. Like, I was just like, you guys, like, he beat you at your own game. Like, it was very frustrating for me to watch. I was just kind of like, I don't know, like, and again, this really spoke to me too, because it was just kind of like, hey man, like I've heard so much like shit about this where it's kind of like Michael B. Jordan, the best like Marvel villain ever, kind of. And it was like, wow, like the most relatable, the most sympathetic, whatever. I'm sorry, I'm drunk. But it was like, why did Marvel, it's just bad. It's just kind of like Marvel has this very sympathetic kind of like Black Power. It was like the one time they pick this sympathetic bad guy, they have to fucking kill him when he's like the kind of leader of the free world. It's kind of, it's also like Disney, don't fucking put like, who did they sample in the trailer?
Scott Heron.
Gil Scott Heron. Don't fucking sample Gil Scott Heron because you guys are a fucking gigantic conglomerate motherfucking multi-billion-dollar company, and you guys aren't going to change shit for African Americans. So don't pretend like you're going to do this, and don't distribute this film like you care about like African Americans. Mm-hmm. The whole thing got me fucking pissed, and I couldn't believe like the extent of Michael B. Jordan's character. And I mean, like, again, it did show progress of like kind of like, oh, like, no, fuck you, Wakanda. You guys like watched fucking like slavery happen, and you guys had spaceships and laser guns.
Where he's, I mean, we talked about it before, where he's like, throw me in the ocean where like with the bodies of my ancestors off of like slave ships and stuff, and like like Wakanda watched that happen and was just kind of like, isolationism, we can't touch it.
Ethiopia, and like, I was just so pissed now watching this movie.
And I understand that is there to show a progression of Black Panther is now, hey, we're going to open up the yada 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 after credits scene. Our technology is yours. You know what would have been a better scene?
Was that the after credits scene?
The first one, not the second.
All right, that's even worse.
Okay, that's the after credits scene where he goes to the UN and says that shit. You know what would have been a better after credits?
No. Yeah. I thought you meant the Oakland scene.
No.
No, that's really bad.
That's the after credit scene. You know what would have been a better, like when he goes to the UN, you know what would have been a better like after credit scene is when like fucking free the fucking people of Africa, man. Like, there's so much bad shit happening over there. I don't know. And I mean, again, that can be like, eventually we'll get to this kind of thing. It's just, I don't know. It's fucking weird. This whole film kind of near the end made me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, wow, the one person who has ideas to actually free the world of oppression and everything, like Michael B. Jordan's seen the shit. He sees what, like his fucking character in The Wire is basically what he grows up as, like, as Killmonger. I don't know. It's just, it's sad to see that the good black guy kills the black guy who's the bad black guy, who's like, hey man, there's some really fucked up shit happening out there to us and you gotta help us.
Well,
that's fucked up. That's a fucked up, like, last scene, and I understand why, like, people are angry about this movie.
I just found it, by the way. So
Yeah, go for
saying,
it, yeah.
After digesting the heart-shaped herbs, so this is after Killmonger defeats Black Panther, T'Challa, in that waterfall fight, which the first waterfall fight, I'm just gonna really quickly throw out the gorilla barking, like when the gorilla guys come in and like everyone's bopping, but then they start barking and like interrupting while everyone's talking. I love that. I was like all about that.
I love the world
yeah,
building
yeah.
in that first coronation.
The culture of each group I thought was very, very, very cool.
They do, like, they set up these distinct different, like, tribes that are, united under the Wakandan flag.
Oh, same, yes.
And the separateness of it's M'Baku is the guy. I can't remember
Yes.
what his tribe is called though, but
So basically what happens is during the second fight, after T'Challa's defeated and thrown over the waterfall, Killmonger gets that, purple herb, the liquid. They bury him in the sand. He goes and sees his dad. A little sentimental scene. I thought that was kind of cool to see, kind of like more of a human element, emotional element to him, other than just being like mad and
Right.
and like just stereotypical a little bit. Like seeing that other side of him was kind of cool. But after he does that, he burns all the flowers, and then he, supported by Wakabi, I don't know which character that one is, and his army, so I think that might be
the Get Out
guy.
Right,
Prepares to distribute shipments of Wakandan weapons to operatives around the world. So it's not going to just anyone to try to help make lives better. It's a drop off to basically, it's almost like the Winter Soldier kind of plot line, where we're kind of taking over S.H.I.E.L.D. and we're going to use these giant ships to basically wipe out any government officials or leaders that go against us.
I would argue that that's poorly established. If I came away not
definitely.
understanding that. But it is the same end result.
And
they are
that's
trying to overthrow oppression.
And that's what kind of pissed me off.
I just didn't think there was
Yes.
Wakandan operatives. I thought it was.
So they had these little sleeper cell guys, like, we're going to give you a weapon, you're going to topple this government. And it's just, that's
But
how
I think
we're
that
gonna
makes
do it.
less sense, because it's like, well, they were just like
But that's what pissed
minutes
me.
ago loyal to T'Challa, who had this isolationist policy.
And we're going to 180 real
And then
quickly.
1 minute later, now
And that's what pissed me off.
Killmonger is the leader of everything, and he's gonna be like, all right, now your policy is we're gonna give you guns and you're gonna distribute them to Oakland
And that's
Nigeria
and that's
all these
what
other
pissed me
places.
off.
Like,
That's why I was saying, like, that was my biggest gripe with the film over anything. I felt like, again, dog chasing the car. I don't
it's
really know
much
what
easier
I'm
to
doing.
be like, all right, like, leaders of like the Oakland community, here's some weapons if you want to fight back, or Nigeria or whatever. But
Yeah. I think
it makes less sense for like people who have been loyal to T'Challa and T'Chaka before him, and this long bloodline of Wakandan kings of this isolationist policy, to be like, okay, now you're going to give our technology to the rest of the world, and they're going to overthrow the oppressors.
Yes.
I think Mike on Red Letter Media said Killmonger is like pro anti-colonialism. But yeah, let's talk about that final scene where he's kind of
Real quickly, because we got to get out of here.
Black Panther is going to gentrify. Nothing. So last scene, spaceship lands in the basketball court where we see Michael B. Jordan, and granted, kids do refer to it as a space Bugatti, and again,
space Bugatti,
and selling it for parts. But one kid is sparked by curiosity, and again, Black Panther is there.
I think it's also the kid from Moonlight.
Really, I didn't know that.
The early one, the young one.
Black Panther is there, and again, this is this person of real power who has the real power to kind of guide him and give him a real path for like a future. And he kind of says like, is that yours? Kind of like, while his friends kind of like lollygag over the spaceship. And like, that gave me fucking chills again, just because I saw this with a theater of kids who were his same age and everything. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was so much more powerful, 100 times more powerful than the end of Star Wars Last Jedi, where it's just kind of like, I'm using the Force.
It was Moonlight Kid, Alex Hibbert, yeah.
Okay, that's good.
I'm just happy to see him get roles.
Oh, definitely, yeah, fantastic. Yeah. But yeah, that was 20 times more powerful than the
UN scene.
Last scene of the Last Jedi.
Oh, yes.
Yes, where the kids kind of playing with the Force, and it's kind of like, oh, he's not the Last Jedi. And this was so much more powerful than that.
The only like last thing I think I haven't talked about for the movie is just how bad the CGI is in that last battle scene with the rhinos. I mean, I kind of said like
rhino lick.
Like,
oh, it's bad. Yeah,
it's just horrible looking.
It's cringy.
Like even for
where did that $2 million go?
I know,
like, $200 million. I'm sorry.
It looked like $2 million.
Yeah, it looked like $2 million. Yeah.
I don't know. Like it was obvious how important this movie was for a lot of reasons, and I feel like it disappointed me in a lot of ways. Like, I feel like they just kind of sent it out there being like, you know, it's gonna get eaten up, but like you have to spend the time on it. It's the same way I felt about like Wonder Woman, and like, you know, we can call, maybe I'm a sexist and a racist, but like I think that there's a better product that's out there for these important movies, and I feel like we kind of have like this placebo effect of like, the narrative is kind of built in before we even see the movie, and then the movie comes out and we're like, oh, it's this fantastic movie, but like it's the same like bullshit that we get with all the other Marvel movies in this movie. And like I wanted something better. I think it had potential for something better. I think we have a really talented cast here, but I think the writing dropped the ball. I think the VFX were kind of lackluster in a lot of points here, and I don't know. I can't really put it that high, even within like superhero movies, much less like any movies. Comparatively speaking, I think that's disappointing because of how important of a movie it could have been.
Even when they,
it is an important movie, right. But it should be an important movie that's also a fantastic movie.
Even when advertisers or even people, reviewers who review this movie, who are like, it's the first black superhero movie, or it's like it's the first like black achievement in film or whatever.
You're not counting, I guess, the Shaq movie.
No, there's
no, I mean the sledgehammer.
No,
what was it called?
But
Steel.
But very seriously, there's Steel. There's
Blade.
There's Blade movies. There's a lot of those, and
they are few and far between over the last.
And they're not really
years.
all that great either.
No, definitely. But we're also like, it's weird that we're so quickly to discount Black history because this is like the new thing. Because like, oh, this is a new thing, kind of. Granted,
I think when there's been 18 Marvel movies, and this is the first one that is Black led and majority Black directed. Black overall,
we do have like a master. We have a master class of Black actors.
I guess my problem is that I just
fantastic. Yes, no one can doubt that.
I feel like it's very transparently like the studio heads and the people are just kind of like they're throwing a bone out there, and I think there is a certain responsibility of us to be like, no, you can do better because you've done better with all the other movies, and like you can't just throw this like half-assed movie out there and be like, all right, they'll shut up for now, and then we can move and go back to the bunch of other like white Avengers that we have in the rest of this, you know? Like right. I wanted a better movie for this. I wanted a better movie for Wonder Woman. I think there are better movies that were inherent into those storylines and they weren't realized in these movies. And I think we kind of clamored over this and we had this placebo effect of like, it was supposed to be this great movie that was supposed to change the course of superhero movies going forward. And hopefully it will because of that placebo effect. But I feel like we could have also had a really good movie at the same time rather than a movie that we thought was going to be good and we just, let it be good in our minds, even though it's not really good in reality.
Yeah. I don't know.
Sorry, that's my rant about this. It's so overhyped, this movie. It has to be brought down a peg a little bit.
No, it was overhyped in the way that it was kind of... Disney is not going to make the movie that sets Black people free. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of also like... I don't know. It's a little frustrating. It was hard to vocalize when I was going on that fucking rant, but I was just like, it's just frustrating.
Let's get into ratings.
Let's do it.
We got 15 minutes before the Oscars, so we got
Yeah, let's do it.
wrap this up. I can go real quick. I don't have a whole lot else to say. I think there's some really bright moments in this movie, which makes it even more disappointing, the overall product, I think. I point to the museum scene. I point to the casino scene. Just that whole sequence in general, I think, is so exciting. And I think there's so many great characters in this movie, but it's just so weighed down by Black Panther being this really boring character. He's got a boring fight style. He's got sort of boring visuals. He's got a boring storyline and boring motivation. And then when you put him in the same movie as Michael B. Jordan, who is so good to look at, such a beautiful young boy.
Beautiful man.
He's got a cool aesthetic to him as a character, like with the whole like Wakandan mask that he starts wearing.
That mask was so cool.
He's got a cool backstory to him. He's got this like motivation that we all buy into, where he's like the most relatable character in this movie, even though he's like, let's go fucking kill white people. Like you have a bunch of white guys watching this movie who are like, no, yeah, but I kind of get it. Like, can I buy into it? That's great writing, and you have to apply that same writing to Black Panther, because this movie ends up having the inverse of what most Marvel or superhero movies have, where usually most movies, they have this really interesting, intriguing main character, and then they just have this sort of like video game villain who's like, I want to destroy the world with a big blue laser. And we finally get a villain who's not that, but they can't get like the most basic part of a superhero movie, which is like interesting main character, interesting protagonist, who's relatable, who's charismatic, who has, just wit and attractiveness. Like Chadwick Boseman is not even close to being the hottest movie in the character in this movie, and like I don't know. I think that really brings this movie down as a whole. I think it could have been much better with a better lead character, or even just a better written lead character, because I think he is interesting in Captain America: Civil War, and then he just kind of, I don't really care about him in this movie. I care more about Killmonger. I wanted more Killmonger and more Michael B. Jordan in this movie. So I'm going to split the baby. I think there are a lot of good moments in this movie. I think there's a lot of potential, but there's also a lot of stuff that's not realized, a lot of disappointment in this movie, and a lot of stuff that's just plain boring. So I'm going to go 2.5 fingers out of 5. It's not a horrible movie. It's also not a great movie. The hype has been overhyped a lot for this movie. I think it's pretty much down the middle. We're kind of just getting the same sort of boring crap we've been getting from superhero movies for a long time.
Yeah.
So 2.5 fingers for me.
All right. Ken, would you like to go next, or should I go next?
It's up to you. Do you want to go first or me?
Yeah, you can go first. I'm still gathering my thoughts.
So, I am 100% on the Mike bandwagon here on that. And like that says a lot, because you guys bust my balls all the time being the superhero fanboy for Marvel and DC. DC still hasn't gotten their shit together for a good superhero movie. I did like Wonder Woman, but my expectations were nothing. Mm-hmm. And I saw it like when it came first available, like on stream through like, Fire Stick, stuff like that. So, like I didn't like pay to go see it. And like, I was really pleasantly surprised with something like Wonder Woman.
Oh yeah.
This movie is a little different because it's super, super hyped. It's very different because it's majority a black cast, and I think that is kind of padding a little bit everyone's views on the movie. It's like, greatest Marvel movie, second greatest Marvel. I was looking at some of that stuff earlier as I was running around, and like head cold, everything like that. Looking at ratings, they're rating it the second best movie other than Guardians of the Galaxy when it comes to the Marvel universe. I don't think it fits there. I think it's very good, but we pointed out a lot of the problems with it. Black Panther giving his own standalone presence. I felt like it was kind of shoved right in there, especially right before Infinity Wars, which is less than 2 months away.
Yeah.
So like I felt like, it's not a huge main character of this universe, and you're kind of like plugging this movie. The acting's absolutely phenomenal for the most part. I thought, nothing against anyone that was involved in the movie. I thought like everyone did their part for the most part very, very well. Michael B. Jordan as an actor, I really, really liked. Like I said, I'm going back to that whole background, the motivation. So like I love the twist with him being the child in the basketball court when everything went down. So he has a general understanding of kind of like what happened to his father, and it's father motivationally run, revenge for his childhood and for the loss of his parent. But again, reading through what his end game was, I just felt like it was, lacking. I felt like, it would have been better if it was kind of how you perceived it, or if I perceived it the way you did. It's like, all right, we need to find a way with all this technology, all these advancements, gifts that Wakanda, the people have, and give back to those that are less fortunate and help those people better their lives. That if that was the direction he was going, and if he wanted to do full on like revolt that way with the weapons and everything, because obviously he's the bad guy, so he needs to have like a bad variation of what he's trying to do.
Good intentions but bad methods.
Exactly. But I felt like it was bad intentions with
bad methods.
So and that was what really killed him for me. Everything else before then, I thought he was absolutely fantastic. The gorillas, the gorilla tribe, and the barking, and the bopping, I thought were like some of the best parts of the movie. I couldn't stop laughing, and like I got really bought into the whole culture and like the richness that they tried to plug in there. But for a 2-hour plus movie, I was kind of bored in a lot of sections. There was a lot of stop go for me.
Right. Yeah.
That last scene with Killmonger, the quote about "throw me in the ocean," I just cringed. I was just like,
"Oh, I like that."
I did like that too. Yeah.
It just, I understand you're focusing on oppression, but like, where's the line on is your motivation personal?
I should clarify. It's a good quote, but it kills the character of Black Panther.
Yes, so that's
detrimental to the movie as a whole.
It's not good for Black Panther. Yeah.
So that's what bugs me, is that like, yes, your motivation is
Black Panther's almost like a slave owner because of that quote that he's receiving, kind of.
Yeah, like all that. I just like,
which is fucked up.
I thought that whole last part, that whole last part was just like, oh man. I'm like, I would have understood and been like, you know what? No, don't bury me. I'm not your people. Like, you killed my childhood. You killed my father. Like, I don't want to be saved by you. I don't want to be buried by you. Toss me in the ocean. And then if he paid homage that way to like historical oppression and all that stuff, I think I would have been a little bit more about it. But like, he just kind of goes right at it. I'm kind of sitting there, I'm like, that's not really why you started doing all this stuff. Like, I don't know. That was just my thought about it. Overall, lots of hits, lots of misses. I'm kind of splitting the baby as well. I have 2.5.
But it's just kind of like, you're not helping anybody. You guys have never helped anybody. If nothing's going to change, let me die. And which is...
It's like a death before dishonor thing.
And
I'm not going to be saved by you. Like,
and you said it best with, then we go to that first post-credit scene where it's like, all right, we're going to help.
No. So obviously that sticks it to him.
You could have lived.
Yeah.
And granted, maybe you would have been in jail, or maybe we would have found a way to kind of redeem you or somehow, but like, your whole bad methods, bad intentions, we're going to do good intentions, good methods, but we're going to find the end result that you probably in the end somehow wanted. And like,
right, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Continue.
Oh, no, it's fine. Yeah, I've said a majority of what I wanted to say. No, there was like a really great article that my friend, I know I'm just some fucking white guy talking about this whole thing, but I mean, one of my friends sent me an article. I don't have the link for it or anything, but if you Google search "an American monster in Wakanda," there is a black author who brings up a lot of really great comments about like watching this movie and being like, how is Black Panther the good guy and Killmonger the bad guy in this whole thing? And I mean, again, a more clarified note of what I was talking about before, I don't know, it was just weird to follow like this kind of people of privilege, the Black Panther's kind of relatives. It was kind of like cheering for like the Lannister family in like Game of Thrones, like at some point where it's kind of like, that's unfair. That's not how we want it to happen. Kind of. It was just kind of like, I mean, again, I did like a lot of this movie. It was a refreshing take from Marvel, like much like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. I liked that they didn't fucking flood it with Marvel Easter eggs.
Yeah.
Again, I think just the name Black Panther is so problematic, and the inclusion of Oakland, California, it was just
that last scene you're talking about.
I don't. The last scene, the beginning scene, any inclusion of that, it's just there's so much history in this shit where I'm just like, this wasn't necessary. I don't know. It's weird. And again, Marvel came up with all of this shit a while ago. But yeah, just some goofy things. Did you guys see that meme where it was like the two white actors in Black Panther who also played like Gollum and Bilbo Baggins? They're the two Tolkien white guys of Black Panther. I thought that was funny.
No, that's really well played.
But yeah, no, I'm just, part of me admires Disney for trying to bring some sort of political wokeness in here, even though it didn't work at all. Like, I mean, I'm glad like Captain America Winter Soldier had some sort of like message on like preemptive warfare. Yeah, like the surveillance state and like drones and everything, when that was really relevant. And then even back in like Iron Man, when we were first in like the Iraq war, where it was like, wow, like, hey, let's talk about like war profiteering or like arms contractors. Like, that's kind of relevant with our fucking vice president and everything. And I'm glad they kind of tried to get involved, but again, it was weird for them to get involved in this. Yeah, I don't know. And once again, just to end my thought, I don't completely hate this film compared to what I was just talking about. There's kind of like this whole Black Panther and warmonger thing where I'm sure like kids who grow up in this middle class or lower middle class that are kind of like, am I not black enough or am I black enough? And it's kind of this really aggressive approach or this kind of other approach. I don't know. It's a confusing film for three white guys to review. And I'm going to end it at that. Again, I think a little more good than evil, just from the theater I was in. People seem to really enjoy it. I want to go with 3 fingers.
So it's going to come to 2.5 anyway, because it's going to be 2.6 repeating.
That's how it worked, though.
2.5. All right. I'm going to give this a real abrupt ending because we got 5 minutes to figure out how we're watching the Oscars at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
And get our predictions in and everything. So if you agree or disagree, leave a comment below on SoundCloud, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you're watching this. Ken, thanks for coming on, supplying us with the tasty beer on this episode. Love to have you back soon. And check us out, howmanyfingerspodcast.com. All of our links are pretty much there. Go watch the Oscars. We're going to do that too. Stay tuned for our Oscar wrap-up episode after the Oscars.
I finally got you to do it. I'm so happy.
We all 3 did it.
We'll see you guys next week. Bye.